Welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Allison, and we're here to talk to you about the real ups and downs of being in the real estate business.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Call Before Showing. This is Allison McPherson, and I am here today with two lovely guests, Alex Eldridge, my co-host, and Christine Cooper, who is located in the Pacific Northwest. So, hey, Christine.
Hi, guys.
So you're on an island?
Yeah, so I'm on Whidbey Island.
That's so cool.
It's like an hour and a half north of Seattle, and you can get there in a car. You know, you can like drive all the way around. There is a bridge that connects it to the mainland, or you can take ferries. There's like several ferries around here.
Wow. So how often do you leave the island?
Pretty much almost every weekend we, go out to do something, but it is like a 40-minute drive either way to get off the island. So you've got to plan accordingly.
You have to commit.
Yeah, it's a commitment.
So do you only sell on the island?
I do. Yeah.
Is that for like convenience, or you are like restricted to that area because of your association?
It's just mostly our team. We just really try to focus on the island just because of the time that it takes to get off island. And so we really just focus around our area. And since we are a military market, the Navy base is like 10 minutes from us. And so that's really where the volume of our business comes from.
That's so cool.
So basically, we'll start with just telling us about you. How'd you get into real estate? How long have you been in the business? And like, what do you do for fun when you're not doing real estate?
So I kind of always thought maybe I should get into real estate. I'm originally from Louisiana, and my degree is from LSU in marketing. And so I met my husband in New Orleans. He was stationed there and I was working. And then I found out that he got orders to the Pacific Northwest. And I'm like, cool, we're moving to Seattle. This is awesome. And then we get here and I'm like, oh, okay, we're on an island and we're actually 2 hours from Seattle. Not what I was expecting. But we decided to end up, we rented for a little bit. We decided to buy. And our realtor, who I actually work with now, so we'll probably get there later, she just opened my eyes. I was just like, okay, this is like totally not what I was expecting. Yeah, ever since then, I was kind of intrigued. So I finally got into real estate in August of last year.
Oh, so you're still in your rookie year, technically.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yay. This is so fun.
I make a year in October will technically be my year.
So how has your rookie year been so far?
Really great. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have done it any other way. Like joining a team. So I'm with Annie Cash, and she's always been on her own. She's got 12 years of experience here on the island. And I mean, she's amazing. And so when she offered me to join her team, I was just like, absolutely. And so being able to just like work with her and learn as much as I have so quickly, I don't know how people start out just on their own without that mentorship, but it's been amazing. I've learned so much. And I finally, like the other day, I had this epiphany. I'm like, okay, I finally found it, like my thing. And it's been really great.
That's so exciting.
That's awesome.
That makes me like almost teary-eyed because Allison and I both know that feeling exactly. And I mean, not that there aren't days where Allison threatens to quit because it only happens like once a month. But
Totally.
So with joining the team, when you first were starting, did you get leads from your team leader, or did she teach you how to fish on your own? Like, how did that?
What does your lead generation look like?
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mix of things. You know, when I first started, it was really just all about like getting all of our systems in place. Annie has like a system and a process for everything. And so it took a little while before I kind of grasped all that, of course. My first client actually came from an open house. And so after that, I was hooked. I was just completely sold on open houses.
How quickly did that happen?
That was in December, so about 2 months in.
That's really great.
So that was great. I mean, I didn't expect it. And especially you're one of my first open houses to like meet a client. But my background, so when we first moved here, we lived here for a couple years after we bought. And I took a job. I was a territory manager for a smoked salmon company. And so I managed all like chefs and restaurants and hotels on the West Coast. So I was so used to cold calling. I mean, door knocking, but it wasn't necessarily door knocking back then. It was more like popping in on a chef, and we would do food shows. And so we'd have a booth and I would have to like make up this conversation with a stranger and do that over 1,000 times a day. So I definitely think that helped me, just being able to just like spat off into conversation with strangers. But I just always focus, especially at open houses, it has to be authentic. Like I cannot force someone to sign in and then just be like, I'm going to just constantly, call you.
No, I think that's a great point. I think that oftentimes, like our coaches, our brokers, our branch leaders, whoever it is that's like coaching us, would prefer if we could just have that same conversation with every single person that ever crosses our path.
Mm-hmm.
I think all three of us can agree that that's not what feels right.
Totally.
And that like ultimately we are happier if the relationships are a little bit more organic.
And back to Allison's question, so as far as like where our leads come from, Annie's a really high volume producer, so she has a lot of listings. So I'm always holding either those open. And I don't know how the laws work in Virginia. We don't practice dual agency. It's legal and it's ethical, but we just don't personally do that. So if Annie has a listing and she has a buyer who might be interested, then she'll refer them to me. There is some lead sharing in that sense. I mean, I'm the type of person I want to pull my weight. So we try and do a mix of those types of things.
Yeah, so it's almost like a joint partnership for the most part. Like it's not like leader and you're the subordinate.
Right. Right, yeah.
Cool.
Would you say that open houses are your favorite way to generate leads?
Absolutely. I'm a buyer's agent, and so that's really just my focus is generating buyers. And I just realized at open houses, you just have groups of people that come through. And of course, there's people who are working with realtors or looky-loos, but there's always those neighbors that stop by or people that come in and they're just starting to browse.
Yeah.
And so picking those people up and being able to like start a conversation that's meaningful has really worked out.
Allison, do you do a lot of open houses?
I do a few. I don't know that I necessarily have a system that feels right for me yet.
You don't do them regularly?
Yeah, I kind of do them here and there. I help out when people in the office are like looking for someone to hold a house open as long as it fits in with the parameters of, it's not 19 turns off of a main street.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely hate putting out those open house signs. It's like the bane of my existence. So yeah, I think I do them, but I don't think I like have a strategy around them that has led to a bunch of leads coming through.
Have you gotten leads out of it, Allison?
I got a listing from an open house, but I've never gotten a buyer off of an open house.
Being in the Pacific Northwest where it's raining all throughout winter, it is really fun putting those signs out. I'm not going to lie.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that.
Definitely the best time of year. So I honestly try to do like at least 3 open houses a month and then take a weekend off. Doesn't always work out that way, but that's kind of what I strive for. And then like you were saying, location, I always make sure it's like 4 signs max and always off of like a main road that, there's traffic. There has to be a lot of traffic happening on those roads where I'm going to put my signs. I try to choose it earlier in the week so that I have time to promote it. It sits on the MLS, people can plan for it. But our market just moves so fast. So sometimes I book it, I get everything set up for it, and it goes pending. So I run into that pretty often too.
If it goes pending, do you still hold the house open?
That is so funny because we were just having this discussion in the office. Andy and I were like, do we? So we polled our audience on Instagram and everybody was just like, no, what's the point? Kind of wasting our time. And so that's really what our fear was that if we did hold it open and it was pending, then people would just be like, oh, okay, so I came all the way out here and now there's nothing. But what I do is I always have a comp ready to go, like a house that's relatively similar and it's vacant. So I know that if I meet someone on the spot, I can be like, hey, we've already had a little bit of a conversation. Would you want to go check this other one out if this one isn't the right fit? And that is what helped me with that first client. And so that's kind of something I always have in my back pocket for conversations.
That's a great tip. I love that.
Yeah. It's one of those things where 90% of the time, the people going to the open house, they're not going to be buying the house that you're holding open.
Right.
So that's super smart to have a comp that is easily accessible. And then do you just say like, hey, let's meet at the end of my open house at this house?
Yeah. So like when people come through the door, I'm just like, hi, I introduce myself. I go over some quick facts. And I always say, I've got snacks or cold brew coffee for you in the kitchen if you'd like, but take a look around. I'm not going to hover, but I am here for questions. Just so they know I'm not going to be like pouncing on them.
Yeah, following them awkwardly.
Yeah, and then I let them kind of navigate the house and I try to listen to hear. I always have a little bit of music in the background too. But I try to, pick up on something that they might have talked about and let that casually come in. And then when they make their way back into, the main room or whatever it is, I always say, so have you guys been looking for a while? And then they typically kind of open up. There's sometimes people who are just shut off, but if that's the case, I don't pry. But then there's people who are like, yeah, we just actually started looking and this is our first stop. Or, yeah, we've been working for, 3 weeks with our realtor. And sometimes they don't tell you that they're working with a realtor, but I always try and get that out of them because I don't want to step on someone else's toes or waste anybody's time. And so if they are available, essentially, and then I'm like, so what do you think of this house? I try to get their feedback. And then depending on, how that goes, I kind of pick up on if they would be interested in seeing another one. And then that's when I kind of go in for that question.
What kind of music do you play?
That is literally the biggest struggle.
Really?
Yes. So one of the things I started doing, I was holding open super cool, like built in the 50s home. And so I thought, you know what? I'll play music from the 50s. And so I use Spotify. And so An Elegant Affair was really good. It was just kind of one of those, all generations know the music. It's just very light, casual. You're not like, hip hop curse words coming through and then kids are, because that could get really awkward.
I mean, it'd be fun, but it'd be awkward.
Exactly. So I try to play it cool and just keep it PG, feel the audience out.
And you mentioned like cold brew coffees and snacks. Do you always provide like food and drink at your open houses?
I always have something. When I first started, I was like, I'm going to cater this whole thing. And then there were like 4 people that showed up and all my cupcakes were just coming home with me.
Yeah.
So now I kind of get things that have a longer life. So I try to do like little packages of cheese crackers and waters. I always have some Perrier out just because it looks so fancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also really like to partner with like local businesses. So one of my husband's friends owns a cupcake shop. And so I'm like, hey, I'll just buy a couple of cupcakes, not a whole dozen. And I'll put them out and then ask them to share the open house post too. And so we tag each other and just kind of get some, feelers out into the community.
Cool.
But yeah, the coffee bar has been the best because people love coffee. People need coffee and it's easy and it presents really nicely.
Have you ever done partnering with a lender or title company to provide the food for their open houses?
I haven't done that yet. Now that we're in summertime, like we're seeing 8 to 10 people come through open houses. I have had lenders stop by and they bring little goodie bags that have just like loan information or mints and just like little cute things. And they leave those out. And that's always good because then people can take them if they choose to. And it just kind of fills up the counter space.
Yeah.
But no partners with anyone else at the moment.
I'm also wondering, I remember there were a couple times here. I don't really do open houses that much anymore, but I was doing a lot of them when I started. It would be a beautiful, like, sunshiny day, and I'd be like, oh, there's definitely people coming today, and no one would show up. And then it would be, like, hailing or, like, pouring down crazy, and everyone would come.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that it rains where you are so much. Do you feel like there's any sort of pattern to like the weather, and maybe if it's sunshiny, people don't want to go look at houses, they want to like go do something fun?
Totally. I mean, yes and no. So like in the wintertime, it's a little bit slower with people coming through. If it's like super stormy, no, it's it's going to be slow. But really, it usually just drizzles here, like really light, and it's like a mist, and it's pretty manageable. So people will come through, and I find that people who come in on those days are serious. Like they are literally ready to buy. So if they're not working with a realtor, that's like, go after those people.
Have you ever had someone walk in and want to offer on that house?
No.
Okay.
Never.
Have you had that, Allison?
No.
I had that once.
Was it your listing?
Well, yes. So this was when I was working with a bank and I did foreclosure listings. And so the bank completely rehabbed this property and I was holding the open house. And so they came in and this house was listed at like $375, let's say. No, I think it was like $390. And they were like, okay, we would like to offer $250. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. And they were like, and she was like, oh, I'm studying to get my real estate license. Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
She totally,
and
yep.
I was like, okay. So I wrote up the offer and I sent it to the bank and I was like, LOL, like, I know, but I have to send this to you anyway. And they were like, haha, no. I went on to actually find them a house, but it was, yeah.
That is hilarious. Well, yeah. And so for dual agency, Christine, in Virginia, there's like different ways that you can do it, not dual technically, because if you don't represent the buyer, if you're the listing agent, you can just still write the offer as like they're an unrepresented party and then your seller is represented.
Yeah, that's same as here too.
Oh, I have a question. When you have people come in, or if you're just showing houses in general, or if they're different at all, but how do you walk through the property with people? Do you just let them in the front door and then let them go crazy? Or do you walk with them? Do you go into each and every room with them?
Yeah. So, Allison, do you want to go first or?
Sure. Yeah. So for open houses, I kind of do what Christine does at the beginning. Like I hand them the information and I say, it's 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, whatever. And then I kind of let them go on their merry way. But then if they're like upstairs for a long period of time or they're like in a specific room for a long period of time, I just like pop my head in and I'm like, hey, just checking in. Any questions? If not, I'll just keep walking around by myself.
And what about for showings?
For showings, I walk with them. I walk behind my client and I don't go like into every room. I kind of hang out in the hallway.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. So obviously the open house and you know what I do there. But for showings, I've stood in the back and let my clients go first before, but then they end up just kind of lingering and like waiting for someone to help with the next move.
Who's going to take action?
Yeah. So now just having one really awkward instance.
Tell us.
I will. So now I lead the way and I don't go into every single room like in the bathrooms or whatnot. I kind of just point out key features if I've previewed it before and let them, take it all in and whatnot. But one time I was showing a for sale by owner and the sellers were there and they were hovering hard. And so I was like trying to let the client, I'm like, yeah, make yourself comfortable. It's no big deal. Just like take a look around. And I mean, it just got so awkward. And so I eventually, in that moment, was like, okay, I have got to drive this bus or else we are going to crash.
Absolutely.
So I just kind of jumped in front. And I mean, that was a fun experience.
Oh, yeah. Anytime the seller is there lingering, you have to take action because I think people feel so awkward walking around someone else's house when they're like, the sellers being there makes them so aware of the fact that it's like their property.
Totally. And like, you can't talk about anything really because they're right there listening. Yeah. And so I even
can't
forgot,
be like, well, this is ugly.
Right. What were they thinking with the wallpaper?
Right, exactly. I never say anything negative. Like even when my clients are talking, I'll nod and smile, but I have like the craziest paranoia of being recorded.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was at a listing recently showing property maybe like last month and my client was like, because it was a very messy house. These people were so messy. And he was like, these people live like pigs. And I'm nodding, by the way, guys that can't hear me. Like, hey, let's go. Yeah, super awkward. All right, Allison, what do you have?
So typically for sale by owners, I like prep my client really hard before we go in. And I say like, listen, my job here is going to be, I'm distracting the sellers. You have to look at everything and I'm going to look at everything too.
I love that.
But like,
yeah, that's genius.
I am going to take this seller to the side and be like, oh my gosh, tell me about the roof. Tell me about the air conditioner. When was that last replaced? Like ask them questions that they have to think about so that they're not paying attention to the buyer walking through, because then I'm like, then you go, like you beeline and you look at what you want to look at. And then, I'll ask questions and then we'll kind of touch base after. And then you can ask them whatever questions you want. Because sometimes I like having the owner there because then the buyers can say like, hey, tell me about the neighborhood. Because we can't tell them about the neighborhood,
Exactly. Yeah, that's so smart.
I've had instances where they're like, oh, what are you planning to do about such and such thing? And then the seller ends up saying, oh yeah, well, we're willing to fix it and goes ahead and like agrees to these things. And I'm like, I mean, your listing agent should have prepped you to not be here, but now you're here and you're talking and you can't take it back. So we are where we are. I love that, Allison. That's such a great tip. I've actually never shown a for sale by owner. I have shown properties where the seller is still in the house, but I've never ever shown a for sale by owner. So that's interesting. Is that does that usually happen by your buyer being like, ooh, I found this house on Zillow, let's go see it?
Yeah, I don't really see them in our MLS, but I have buyers who are, on Zillow and they see something. And I always call that seller beforehand and just like, hey, are you willing to work with an agent?
Right.
Because there are people who out there who just won't.
Yeah.
But I haven't had that experience yet, thank goodness. I haven't actually written on a for sale by owner either. So that's coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've written on a for sale by owner, but
Of course you have. Allison has had like every tricky situation in the book. Allison has done it. Hey, anybody, you want to know how to mitigate soil that's gotten oil on it? Allison can help you. She's been there.
so I've written probably 3 transactions on for sale by owners. One of them was my father-in-law who was writing on his landlord's house before it hit the market. So that was like an easy one. That was cool. But then every other one that I've written, the owners they don't understand, and then they don't want to listen to you explaining stuff because you're the buyer's agent. They don't trust you inherently. So those ones kind of went to hell in a handbasket really quickly.
Yeah, that's my fear.
Yeah, because they're like most of the time a little bit overpriced or a lot overpriced. They don't understand closing costs versus commissions. Like I've gone as far as like writing out a like estimated net sheet for them.
Yeah.
And been like, here you go, friend. And it still didn't work. So, and I'm like, if you listed with an agent, it would be this. So the fact that you're FSBO, you're saving this much money. So yay.
Yeah.
They're not fun.
Yeah, that does not sound like a good time.
Yeah.
Unless it's because they're like really, I guess, financially distressed and they just cannot afford that commission. I think it's usually a difficult personality.
Yeah, totally.
I wanted to say one thing. I know you touched on this earlier about you pick open houses that are, in a certain area or that have a lot of access.
Mm-hmm.
Just for people listening that are in their rookie year, I remember when I started, I was going to take any and every open house that came my way. And it didn't occur to me that someone could ask me to do an open house for a crappy house.
Yeah.
And so there was an agent, that's how I did my first open house, was from an agent sending out an email saying like, does anyone want to do this? And I said, yeah. And so then she asked me to do another listing a month later, and I did that one. And then a month later, she asked me to do another listing, and I just said yes. I wasn't even looking these up prior to going. And that third one was a shack.
Yeah.
Was like a tiny little shack in a terrible part of town that I didn't feel super comfortable like sitting in this house alone by myself. So I had my husband come with me and sit with me in this house, and it's just, you can say no, because it didn't even occur to me to say no to an open house, because I was like, I'm not going to say no to opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't even occur to me, but definitely look up the house.
Like I always try to at least like drive around and see, what are the other, roads nearby, what the neighbor's house looks like.
Right.
I've actually gone as far as like writing invites and handing them out to some of the neighbors.
Oh, that's so nice.
I mean, it's a reason to just get my name out there because it is my rookie year and I'm just trying to make a name for myself. And if they stop by, maybe that's a potential sale down the road. So
Absolutely.
trying to think outside the box and get people into the house and just talking. Because sometimes the more people in the house, it can get awkward with conversations. But in what I've actually found, and that's what I thought, what I've actually found is the more people in the house, the neighbors help sell the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so just recently, I had 8 neighbors come through this one open house and one potential buyer that just came from the signs. And she's actually someone that I had been working with a few months ago, and she decided not to buy and sell. And now she's kind of looking again. But one of the neighbors was there, and she was just like, I mean, really talking up this neighborhood. And it is a great neighborhood.
Oh.
So that was easy. But she trusted me then more because the neighbor really just affirmed everything that I had already told her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she actually called me back the next day and left like the nicest message. And it was like a breakthrough moment for us. I was like, oh, I'm so glad that neighbor was there that day.
That's awesome.
Okay, so let's switch gears out from open houses and talk about what do you think your biggest learning is from your rookie year?
Honestly, I think just, do your own research. So like here on the island, septic systems and wells are really common. So not every home is on public sewer, public water, all of those things. And so I got really, really familiar with like going out, meeting all of the mortgage brokers, meeting everyone at the county, making sure that I got to know all of those people who are going to be part of the team so that if I had a question, I actually knew who I could go to. And that has been amazing, like so helpful, because septic systems can be amazing and great, but then they can also be a disaster. I have a guy that I can call anytime and ask him, hey, do you mind just looking over the septic report? Does this look okay to you? And just building that team of people that you trust, that you can go to.
That's great. I'm going to ask you next time I have a septic question, because I've never sold something with septic or well.
I don't know everything about it. I'm not an expert, but yeah.
But it's such a learning curve, especially if you didn't grow up around that, if you've never lived in a house with that. And it just goes back to all of the things that we're expected to know.
Seriously. Like, I had one that I was trying to help somebody buy land, and it's in a place where septic is what you will have no matter what. And, my buyer knew more than I did because she worked for a mortgage company. And she was like, okay, so we have to get a perk test and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the hell is a perk test? So I'm like running around the office, like asking the people who sell in this particular area a lot. And I'm like, who do I need to call? Who is your go-to? Because it's like, man, if I wouldn't have had those other people in the office, I would have been a mess.
Totally. So your guys' market, so like ours is primarily military. We kind of have a dual market. So anything under like 400, 450, typically dominated by the military buyers. Anything over then is just sometimes vacation owners or people who have lived here forever, doctors, whatnot. What is your markets like, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, my area is really similar, I think, to Whidbey Island, because we have every single type of military installation here. So we have Coast Guard, Navy, Marines, Army. We have all of them.
Oh,
here.
Wow.
So it's a lot dominated by military.
And then for me, because I'm right outside of DC, we have a lot of military as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have tons of just government workers and contract workers.
Yeah, and you have a lot of tech up there too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I haven't had any tech clients, only government employees and military so far. But I'm down for a tech client.
Heck yeah, Amazon's coming there.
Totally.
Yeah, buy a $5 million house. I'm into it. All right. So, do you have any embarrassing or hilarious stories to tell us?
Oh gosh, so many. I have to say, the one that is just the worst was I had my first time. I got houses confused. Like, they looked identical. Okay. And one was vacant and one had someone living there. And I'm with my client. We just drove 20 minutes from the last showing, and I get to the house and I like put my key in the door, and I'm like, I'm confident. I know this house. I remembered exactly which one it was. I was like feeling good. And I open the door and I see a light turn on, and my heart, like, I was like, this is it. My career is over. I went into full panic, and I looked over and I could see through the window that the homeowner was there with a newborn baby. Not like it was the worst situation. All the kids like come running down the stairs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I totally got this house confused with like, I felt like a complete moron.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, though, they were just like, no, please come on in. I want to sell. Feel free, show the house. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, oh my God, if I was trying to sell and my husband had all of our mess everywhere and allowed someone to show our house, I would have been furious.
Right.
So I just like casually was like, no, I'll make another appointment. It's no big deal. Oh my gosh, it was so horrifying, because then my client doesn't understand like what just happened.
Yeah.
So then I had to explain, probably got these a little confused. So that was, even now just telling the story, I feel like I turned beet red.
And when those things happen, you definitely feel like it is the end of the world.
Yeah, because it's like you're just so warned about it, and I'm like, they're going to call the MLS. I'm going to lose my license. I mean, total extreme.
That's so funny. That stuff happens all the time. I think that's the most common embarrassing stories we have involve walking into the wrong house.
Yeah. Always
It's just a job risk for us.
Yeah. Or not being able to open the stupid door because the key is wrong, or like there's 19 keys on it and it takes 20 minutes to figure out which one opens the door.
You know what's the most annoying thing that's been happening to me recently is I'm able to get into the lockbox, get into the house, show it, and then when I go to put the key back in, the lockbox doesn't close. And I can't just leave a key there. And I don't know, something with these lockboxes up here. They're different from the ones that you have, Allison.
Are they the ones like with the code on the front, like the Williamsburg ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And they just don't close. And so I've like stood outside of a house like sweating for like 20 minutes trying to close this thing over and over and over again. And eventually it works out, but it's awful.
That's annoying.
Super annoying. Okay, so now we're going to move into the last segment called This or That, and Allison's going to ask you a series of questions and just answer them quickly.
Okay.
We've had some people be like, let me go into a 20-minute conversation about
We did. I remember that.
But that's okay. Okay. This or that. Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Flats or heels?
Flats. I want to say heels, but flats.
Yes. We're flats people here.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee all day.
Yes. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Wine or liquor?
Ooh. Probably wine.
Okay.
Wine or margarita?
Oh. Wine. I drink more wine, but I do love a good margarita, man.
Farmhouse or mid-century modern?
Farmhouse.
List or buy?
Buy, for sure.
Well, you better say that you're a buyer's agent.
I had to think about it. I'm like, what?
That totally reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you. Can I be an asshole and interrupt this or that for a second?
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. I was going to ask you, I know a lot of people, that's how I started. I started off as a buyer's agent in the exact same situation as you. I loved my buyer's agent when I bought my first house. She ended up becoming my mentor. We were a 2-person team, like exactly how you explained it. Are you looking forward to being a listing agent, or do you just really prefer being on the buy side to being a listing agent?
I have no desire to list. And I think what drew me the most to real estate was because I'm a military wife, the relocation process is absolutely horrifying. Like, what grocery store do I go to? What nail salon? Where am I going to get my hair done? And so it's like with those clients, like I get to actually make such a huge impact in their lives. Not only am I helping them find a home, sometimes they're deployed. They don't even get to see it until the final walkthrough. But it just feels more meaningful where I feel like with listing, I mean, obviously it's important too, but I don't know. I'm just really digging the buying side, and I think I'm going to enjoy this for a bit.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay.
Well, wait. Okay.
Proceed, Allison.
No, now I have a question.
Oh, okay.
So your husband is in the military?
Yeah, he's active duty in the Navy.
Okay. So then is he in a job that you're likely to have to move somewhere else in the future?
Yeah, so we were supposed to actually, his contract was up last October, but he had an opportunity that he could either re-enlist or extend for 2 more years. So we chose to extend, and that's why I kind of made the move to real estate, because I'm like, now's the time or never.
Right.
And so he actually is getting out next October. He's not going to retire. So right now that's the plan, is he's going to get out. He's air traffic control, so he's going to try and get into the FAA. But depending on where we're at the moment, as far as in my career, to start all over just sounds so sad.
But it's doable.
It's doable. I mean, there's a lot of people that do it, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I just moved from Southern Virginia to Northern Virginia, and it was really, really hard to start over in real estate.
I know. That's why I'm so glad we have this team dynamic that we're doing, and I'm hoping that we can just really do this for a while and see where it goes. And then if he wants to get into the FAA later, cool, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you market yourself individually, or do you always market for the team?
So we have 2 different logos. So like she has her Annie Cash logo, and then we have an Annie Cash team logo. And so that was one big thing when I was like interviewing different brokerages and different teams. I wanted to be able to like have my face out there and build a name for myself. So like my directional signs for open houses, they say Christine Cooper with the Annie Cash team. So like I do get that opportunity to get my name out there. And I have my Instagram account and all of those things. So I promote the team, but I do have my own kind of, yeah.
Really and you have like control over that as long as it kind of like sticks with the branding of the original team branding and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's no like, you have to use these colors and whatnot, but we just have very similar tastes in things. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah, I loved her brand already. And she does all the things that before I got into real estate, I said I wanted to do. And so I kind of came onto a team that was just so perfectly suited already. So it's really easy to just promote what's already there. And she has so much content that I just try to like repurpose it, and leverage that. And
That's so cool. All right, Allison,
Okay.
take us away with the last couple of this or that.
Okay. We just went on a tangent. See, we do this every time, Alex. It's not
I know.
It's not our guest. It's us.
Hey, if the conversation's good, keep it going.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. New construction or fixer-upper?
new construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Target or TJ Maxx?
Oh, Target.
Okay. Well, and the next one is East Coast or West Coast, but you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, but that's not where she's from.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So I love the West Coast, but I have to say Southeast is my fave.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for being on today's episode.
Thank you guys so much.
We loved getting to know you. Oh, can we ask you how you found us?
Yes. Okay. So I have like found every realtor on Instagram possible when I made the career change.
Yeah.
And RVA Homes with Jess.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, like love her feed. And she just happened to, I guess, post on her story or something one day. And I was like it was one of those Mondays, if you know what I mean. So then I started listening to some of the podcasts and I'm like, oh my God, I love these girls. And
wait, she posted about us on her stories. Did you know this,
Yeah.
Allison? I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, she shared some. She said, like, if you're a realtor or real estate agent, you need to pay attention to call before showing.
Oh.
Love her. Well, thank you for joining us today. And so in case anybody is looking to send referrals and all that jazz to Whidbey Island, how can people find you?
Instagram's gonna be the best place. It's just at Homes by Christine Cooper.
Yay!
Thank you guys so much for having me. This was really awesome.
It went by so fast. Now we have a friend in Whidbey Island.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to Call Before Showing. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.